This video is sponsored by Warthunder. Nature is a beautiful thing that we're gonna burn down. You're welcome. Welcome to Total Warhammer 3, where today we're going to be destroying the entire planet, burning down every single city, and ending every faction in the game, with none other than the Warriors of Chaos and Archaon, the Never Chosen. In a world with near omnipotent celestial dragons, mountain-sized lizards, and untold undead legions, Archaon took one look at the internet and decided, yep, let's burn it all down. All across the map are 8 Warriors of Chaos factions: Archaon, Kolek, Sigvald, Azazel, Festus, Valkia, Village, and Be'lakor. While we're starting as Archaon, all the other factions can be confederated, but not peacefully. By destroying every single settlement of a fellow Warriors of Chaos faction, they'll join us, willingly, granting us the respective legendary lore. And our goal is to forcibly confederate all of them, then destroy every single city, province, and faction in the entire game. So first, the rules. First, I must destroy every faction on the map, and by the end of the game, turn every single settlement into ruins. Second, I cannot use any kind of diplomacy. Every minute spent negotiating is a minute I could have spent burning down someone's house. And lastly, you already know where this is going, Warthunder, the sponsor of this video. I have a dream that one day every man, woman, and child of this planet will own an M1 Abrams for self-defense. Gone to the days of taxation without representation when you play Warthunder. With over 2,500 methods of self-defense ranging from 10 different major nations, protect your right to bear arms from the early 1920s to the main instruments of liberation today. Immerse yourself in fighting for what's right with realistic graphics, sound effects, and vehicles that really make you feel like you're on trial in The Hague. With over 70 million expendable, valuable, and irreplaceable human beings, engage in incredible PvP, rich in military history. With in-depth customization, pilot the drag queen jet of your dreams, or gain the tactical edge by making your opponents play with one hand. The game is free on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Plus, by using the link in the description, new and returning players who haven't played in over 6 months get a free bonus pack in the name of freedom. With an exclusive vehicle decorator, massive amounts of dosh, and 7 days of premium access. But act now before my team and I break down your door. Hey, what does this timer mean?
Wait, what?
Now, back to the video.
It is time we march south. Let the quivering fools know we come to tear down their nation, slay their kings, and ravage their mortal remains.
Yep, pretty much. Welcome to the Chaos Wastes, a glorious paradise that promises equality for all. Equality in wealth, equality in housing, and equality in life. Now, at the beginning of the game, Archaon is aggressively average, but by the end of the game, we will make him single-handedly destroy entire armies. Our first enemy is a Slaaneshi demon faction, most well known for making straight people very confused. Luckily, we have their counter, whatever these things are. Because our faction is Chaos Undivided, we can gain access to every Chaos God unit. So our starting army has Nurgle Chaos Spawn, Slaaneshi Hellstriders, Tzeentch Chaos Knights, and Khornate Berserkers. I don't want to be horny anymore. I want to be happy. By fighting, all units gain veterancy and experience, but Chaos units specifically use this differently. By gaining levels, they can be promoted into more advanced units. So basic Marauders turn into Chaos Warriors into Chosen or Knights, and in typical Chaos faction, everyone can become Chaos Spawn. The difficulty is getting basic Marauders leveled up, because believe it or not, they do suck ass. I mean, that guy's wearing his armor backwards, that guy couldn't even afford a second spike, and that one's just facing the wrong way. They're so bad, we straight up get abilities to kill them faster, which I did by auto-resolving the first siege. In taking the settlement, we're granted a few options. Raising gives experience, sacking gives money, but for this settlement specifically, we can make an actual city. This is because here is a dark fortress, one of several unique locations where we can build massive cities. Most are in the Chaos Wastes, with a few others being in specific locations further south. You might also have noticed that I just vassalized a faction. But wait, you might say, I thought you couldn't have any allies. Correct! For any vassals we gain, I will immediately sever all relations and declare war. And for whatever reason, it's not viewed as untrustworthy. Hey, I may be a genocidal warlord, but at least I'm honest about it. To improve our army, I recruited the Swords of Chaos, a unique group of elite Chaos Knights, as well as recruited more Marauders. Chaos armies recruit instantly, having a limited pool of units that that refreshes over time. The thing is, this pool varies on the area. Normal terrains just have marauders, mountainous provinces might have dragon ogres, and areas with high corruption of any specific chaos god will have units of their faction. Although getting rid of corruption is easy. Just burn down the whole province. Chaos campaigns are pretty much a poverty palooza, because I'm going to be burning down a lot of cities for no other reason than the vibes were off. Minor cities barely have any value to us because we can't really build anything there. Nearly 100% of our infrastructure will be in dark fortresses. After chasing the Slaaneshi faction to their last city, they seduce one of my units to their side. Don't care. Remember, there is absolutely no diplomacy besides war, so all peace offers are immediately rejected, and wars are permanent until I destroy the entire faction and world. Afterward, our former vassal brought 2 armies to attack us in march stance. An entire army of worthless marauders versus one group of coronate berserkers was not close, and anything we lose can instantly be replaced with our own worthless marauders, which I used to negotiate an end to the war, only to have another war declared by the resident Russian ice cream man Boris, who'd marched straight up to our capital city with no units nearby. Luckily, because I'm chaos, I just pumped out an entire army in one turn. I also activated our first Gifts of Chaos, another special mechanic which uses our secondary currency souls. Here we could choose gifts from each chaos god, giving faction-wide bonuses at the cost of souls per turn. And the way to get souls, you could probably imagine. Right now we can only access the undivided gifts, but later we'll get gifts from each chaos god. So I just took the melee attack increase for marauders and a Shatterstone ability to break walls during sieges. Although in the case of Boris's siege, use it to throw a rock at some homeless. For as strong as polar bear riding Boris is, my chaos lord spirit leeching him 15 times was a little stronger. Resulting from his strategic genius of banging his head against a wall, I named our chaos lord Abaddon. Tactical genius. Then Abaddon went to remove the remaining Kislevite army. Apparently I lose this battle. Unfortunately, we do have a problem with this new army, because whatever it is we're paying them with, we're out of it. The Everchosen may have a lot of things, but a good credit score is not one of them. To get out of this, we'd have to use our wits, resources, and financial literacy. Filing for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Having credit card debt isn't a problem if you stop paying it. Bankruptcy causes attrition for all units, including garrisons. But for Chaos, a negative income isn't really that bad, because we supplement it with everyone else's money. Plowing through Boris's land gave us another dark fortress, and an involuntary vassal in Sigwulf, who, had no settlements, because I refused to give him any. Then he squared up against Boris's last settlement, and against all odds beat the garrison, only to sack the settlement and die of attrition.
Congratulations!
So with Sigwulf and Boris both gone, we can now return to our current goal, confederating all 7 other Chaos Lords. The plan was to grab Kolek and Village first, by moving down the right side of the map. We need to completely decimate both of their factions entirely, and since I need to walk all the ways there, I figured it was a good time to do Archaon's first quest battle. No. I mean, the second one is easier anyways. I'd like to apologize. Maybe the better target is this Nurgle faction between us and Kolek. By the time we'd wiped out the Nurgle faction, some of my marauders could be promoted into warriors, and warriors into chosen. While there are a few infantry in the game as good as chosen, there is technically one chaos infantry unit that scales so unbelievably hard it breaks the entire campaign. They're useless right now, but with the research tree, they become ridiculously busted. Chaos's technology mostly revolves around unlocking boons for each chaos god, with a path for Khorne, Nurgle, Tzeentch, and Slaanesh. Completing the entirety of these trees gives space for adding more boons of chaos, the main way we use souls. The more boons we have, the faster another mechanic triggers, the Eye of the Gods. Each time it fills up, we get to select a powerful buff from 4 random options. Sometimes they're mediocre, and sometimes they're a little game-breaking. But right now, our main concern was Kolek, because we'd finally bordered his land. Declaring war on his vassals would pull him in, and only a few turns later, Archaon was fighting both factions' armies. The vassal army was nothing special. Given my army was rapidly becoming chosen and chaos knights, everything just kinda dies. But Kolek was another matter. 1,000 weapon strength and the mass of a mountain of lard, he beat the absolute booty off Archaon while chasing that ass. My only course of action was something tame, to hotbox him in every large unit on the map. And because that was Kolek's only army, we just marched up to his capital, giving us a special Warriors of Chaos option, and Force Confederation. This forcibly recruits any legendary lord of the Chaos faction into our army, with this case being Kolek. Now if we go check our lords, we could use him to lead an army, which means 1 Chaos Lord down, 6 more to go. Okay, 5 more to go. village died. Enforced Confederation also gives you that faction's vassals, and as much as I care about their $37 tribute, I could just end vassalage that turn for no penalty. And only a few turns later, we were finally making money. A feeling that won't last. Still, for the time being, it meant we could regroup without needing to constantly sack cities, and while Archaon began his journey back to the north, Abaddon had been busy. Our territory stretched southeast, like a misshapen dildo, meaning Abaddon had been defending the north from a random orc tribe that spawned in the Chaos Wastes. They sacked a city, leaving behind a pile of poo. Then the following turn sacked it again, leaving behind an even bigger pile of feces. But it's okay, because I deconstructed it for money. To whoever does our construction work, I am so sorry. We also had a Chaos Rebellion, angry about all kinds of important political issues, like literally everything. The Skaven below us had also declared war, and I defended that by letting my outer cities get sacked and not giving a crap. Don't worry, nobody rich lived there anyways. All our actually important stuff is in dark fortresses. Besides, Abaddon was too busy raiding the Chaos Demons to our left to narrowly avoid bankruptcy, which tricked the Skaven into a false sense of security. He's standing right behind me, isn't he? Ah, right, these cities did just belong to me, didn't they? Unfortunately, separating us and the Skaven capital was another faction, the Chaos Dwarves. Maybe they won't notice me trespassing. With the Skaven eradicated, we could return our attention to the far north and the Chaos Lords on the left side of the map. Both Valkia and Sigvald start in the northwest, so paving through the Chaos Prince faction would get us access. The others would be south of us, Be'lakor, Azazel, and Festus, so we could federate them last. We'd also unlocked our first god-specific gift of chaos, being an additional Tzeentch gift. This works exactly like the undivided gifts of chaos, with different gifts to choose from. I picked one to improve our spellcasting at the cost of mid-cast chance, but as it turns out, Tzeentch is kind of a dick. Mid-casting is a chance to damage the spellcaster when casting, but somehow this mid-cast applies to literally every ability on every unit. Trying to block with your shield? No, I think you mean blow yourself up. What about just moving a little faster? Blow yourself up. Okay, but I just drank a healing potion. I probably should have changed this, but I didn't because I forgot. Considering that Archaon had just narrowly escaped an erotic episode with Kolek, and casting spells would literally blow up in his face, it was clear he wasn't yet the world beater I was hoping for. We needed to level him up and quickly. We needed his unique quest items. We needed to fight their 4 battles. And we needed training.
Deliver slaughter! Weakling Conjurer! Lands are also mine to command!
So at the end of the 4 quest battles, we collected all Archaon's unique items, and where he'd started at just rank 23, in one turn he had leveled up 13 times. By the 3rd quest battle, he just ran straight into an army, killed their leader in 5 swings, and won. Plus in the 4th battle for the Crown of Domination, this is him versus a Lord of Change. And that's not even mentioning his other ability.
You think I am not versed in the arcane?
We'd gotten so much XP, the entire army was pretty much just chosen, and one of my Chaos Sorcerers had leveled up to a new milestone, unlocking his Mark of Chaos. With this, we can dedicate any of our Chaos Undivided heroes to specific Chaos gods. So, by gaining a Mark of Tzeentch, he became a Tzeentch spellcaster with a new talent tree and skills. This can be done for most heroes and non-legendary lords, who gain a special version to ascend to demonhood at higher levels. For our legendary lords, while they can't devote to a god directly, I can specialize their armies in other ways, like recruiting Kolek just so we can make him a proud dragon ogre daddy. He even starts at 800 weapon strength before I've even done anything. His army was positioned conveniently on the border to the Chaos Demons. Wow, they're so tolerant. Sacking small settlements for $5,000 is a decent step up from looting desolate chaos wastes, but the real prize is that most of the remaining dark fortresses are located to the left, meaning we could actually boost our economy. Of course, economy is a strong word considering we make money by planting heads on the ground and talking to the sky. 90% of all chaos worshippers stop right before they hit it big. Or in our case, recruit the insane hero, heroes, meet Charix and These creatures have dedicated their life to none other than reading, while simultaneously being illiterate. Their skill tree includes every single spell from every lore of magic, except for each lore you gain, they get minus 4% spell costs. In total, this means a 60% discount on all spells. Seems pretty strong, right? Well, in true Zeech fashion, they're also batshit crazy, because every time they do cast, they re-randomize all their spells with every spell in the game, which means we can start off with an icy hailstorm, followed by Egyptian death magic, summoning a ghost pirate ship, then a volcano, and topping it off by spawning rats with chlamydia. Oddly specific for a spell, but then again, I also summoned crabs. And conveniently, Sigvald, chosen of Slaanesh, well-known boy toy, and the next skull we're going to cave in. With both him and Valkia directly to our left, it made sense to continue ever-bossing through the Chaos Demons. By researching our first gift of corn, we could adopt a boon to increase sacking income, gaining thousands per looted settlement. And spoiler, we're looting everything. The Chaos Guides tell me a lot of things, like the location of your safe, and why I should throw it in the ocean. Even with the Demon Prince himself showing up, armed with an army looking like leprechaun vomit, he died pretty easily. Then on the diplomacy screen, hey, you okay there, champ? My goal was to lure Sigvald to the last demon settlement while we caught him distracted, spreading Zeech corruption. Sure, he's got 3 vassals, but that's just 3 times the money. Archaon's army was fighting both Sigvald's and another random stack, with Sigvald's stats being pretty good, but not good enough. We'd also promoted a Zeech sorcerer hero, and while you might know magic carpets, what about magic Roombas that can even summon giant eyes from other realms to aggressively stare at people until they die? Ironically, Sigvald wasn't really a problem, but his legendary hero Harold Hammerstorm was, who sat fighting a blob of maxed out Chosen until Archaon arrived. Killing Sigvald is fantastic, not because I care about Confederation, he's a loser, but rather for his defeat trait, 10% damage reduction. A trait so good, I exploited it into extinction. As soon as he respawned, I continuously hunted him down to farm the trait, over and over and over. Endangered species? No, I think you mean dead. Sigvald's other weapon was the fact that he had a crapload of heroes. Some from him, some from his vassals. And I only had one on the campaign map, our boy Prince Ograx. Now apparently he's famous or something, but what I care about is that nearly every turn for the last 50 turns, this man has walked up to dozens of heroes, coughed in their general direction, and with a lowly success rate of 100%, erased them from existence. In one turn, we'd blitzed his armies in a few cities, plus encountered both Azazel and Valkia, 2 more of the 7 lords to confederate. We also made contact with Karl Franz, who I think invaded Poland. But most importantly, we researched our first gift of Nurgle, along with the most busted ability ever, replenishment of all armies in foreign territory. As if my units weren't expendable enough, now they replace losses no matter where they are, which is exactly why I recruited a 4th army, dedicated to Slaanesh. The Warriors of Chaos also have no supply line, so no matter how many armies we recruit, our upkeep doesn't exponentially increase. This is helpful for committing various acts of inhumanity across the northern wastes. Lore-wise, Norska is supposed to be helping us, but I don't need help. I need more naked men with whips. With our first Slaaneshi gift of chaos, I took an increased movement range boon at the cost of more upkeep. Joke's on them, it's not even my money. Sacking pretty much every settlement possible, all of our money went into upgrading the dark fortresses to try and maintain a positive income. Or, green number go up. Very good. For all the great quest items Archaon has, he doesn't. The Crown of Domination, pride jewel of the Ever-Chosen, ditched for a health potion. And later we'll be replacing the Slayer of Kings with the Sword of Cain, and turning the Never-Chosen into the Ever-Chosen. Besides, the major war we were fighting wasn't with swords or crowns, it was the decline button on peace offers. Look, Bill Cosby, I said no the other 10 times, 11 is not going to help. Especially not when Kolek is outside your home. Ending Sigvald once and for all, we convinced him to join us, adding him to our legendary Lord pool. It did leave a few homeless vassals strewn about, and you know how I feel about poor people. Bringing Sigvald into the fold, I recruited him for a 5th army of whip-wielding warriors. Remember, it's not gay if only men are involved, like this guy, who joined our faction at an unfairly high level. One of the buffs for the Eye of the Gods increases recruit rank by 10. That means I could just spam out high-level sorcerers, exalted heroes, and lords every time we get it. As for our legendary lords, Archaon was already at max level, but his build of items wasn't complete, missing only the Sword of Cain from the elves. Halting our progress was a great cataclysm spell, unleashed by only the most powerful mages, and causing $9 of damage. Fortunately, with Valkia to our left,
your lifeless corpse shall be dedicated to the blood god.
Okay. Apparently, as soon as Archaon walks into a province, it gets minus 17 public order. He's basically a modern-day Gandhi, but his version of achieving peace is by killing everyone, like Wulfric, our upstanding neighbor. So upstanding that he has an army of allies. Now, I'd like to declare war on him without his allies. So what I can do is go to a faction he's at war with, then through them join the war, essentially declaring war without pulling his allies in, and immediately allowing us to take a new dark fortress, because by this point, we were running out of new ones to conquer. Our capital was making $4,000 alone, because each fortress is incredibly valuable. But as we move further south, we'll be further and further from our fortresses, making recruiting and maintaining armies more difficult. Still, taking Wulfric's land was easy, and in watching us declare war on their closest ally, the Skaven immediately retaliated with a non-aggression pact. As we occupied more cities from Wulfric, we'd also made landfall in the main Old World, where most of the goody two-shoes Order factions are. So it's where most of our future wars are going to happen. Taking an overview, you can see that we own the whole north of the map, meaning that we're going to be fighting downward after we kill Valkia. The downside of this is that we're going to be at war with most of the world very quickly, with a huge surface area of land where enemies can invade. For right now though, Valkia had finally appeared, and right in front of Kolek, whose army I had massively upgraded. I find it ironic that the Queen of Khorne is fighting Khorne Berserkers backed up by more Khorne Berserkers, pitting the Gore Queen against the Star Crusher in a very fair fight, where I completely cheated. Hey, I don't write the rules, I still can't read. Remember these guys? Turns out I didn't even need the Berserkers, or Kolek to be honest. 4 dozen spells cast at random enemies with random effects destroyed the whole front line. The actual fight of Kolek versus Valkia, Kolek has a clear edge in strength, with weapons to boost his weapon strength immensely. With Valkia gone, that left her capital wide open, but not just to us. The Dark Elves were also at war with her, and because she only had one settlement left, if they took it before me, I wouldn't be able to confederate. Well, Malekith, it was nice while it lasted. Malekith himself was the real threat, or at least until I actually fought him. Running Archaon in single-handedly, Malekith decided to not fight him personally. So Archaon killed every single large unit and hero in the army while taking 0 damage, because they could not break his barrier even once. Malekith instead decided to target our weaker lieutenant, Prince Ograx, and died anyway. But killing Malekith's army was just the beginning. Our Eye of the Gods had opened and given us a boon that replenishes all campaign movement points after every battle we win. So after the fight, Archaon pursued every retreating army because it refilled our movement every single time. It also somehow broke Sigvald more than he already was, because now he moves further in default stance than in march stance. With Valkia's forced confederation, that left only Be'lakor, Azazel, and Festus. The first order of business was to recruit Valkia's army. Apparently, she gains movement when enemy armies retreat, so running away means a trip to Soundtown. Plus, when people cast around her, they blow up. Perfect, I really needed more of that. So while Archaon erased the Dark Elves from Nagaron, let's turn back to the right side of the map. Norsko was essentially ours, but both Azazel and Throt were still problems with no answer. I declared war on them, hoping my new armies could finish the job, while our main lord there, Abaddon, had reached level 30, allowing him to ascend as our first demon prince. This acts as a step above dedicating to a god, allowing generic lords to become super-powered demons. Besides the North having the coherence of a US senator, the South was equally as bad. I'd finally declared war on the Empire, pitting us against an increasingly high number of factions, and it's only gonna get worse. Remember, we still have the entire rest of the world to take. My infrastructure was also reaching capacity. With 100k to spend, I could not physically use all my money. And now that we'd entered the old world, we'd have to deal with the real warmonger of Total Warhammer, Karl Franz. Karl had somehow come face to face with the now demon prince Abaddon, and with him was 3 whole steam tanks. Maxed out armor, high health, and unbreakable morale, the steam tanks played a friendly game of skee-ball, where every hole was Abaddon's face. I did my best to juke their shots, but as soon as Franz joined in, I knew this would end in one of 2 ways. Abaddon running away, or me uploading a steam tank gangbang to Brazzers. At least he could do 2 things right, fireballing some Craigslist captain to death, and hitting the gym, the American one. Saving us again was our chosen with great weapons, hacking down Karl and breaking the tanks before the guard. On the other side of the world, Archaon was having similar success. His army could raid for $1,400, which is more than what the settlement is actually producing. He's not really raiding, he's just subsidizing the local farms with fertilizer. By this point, I had nearly a dozen armies, ranging from STD spreaders to STD receivers. Archaon sacked the Dark Elf capital, sacked a different neighboring city, then came back and sacked the capital again. Now, of all the threats we have, which is the worst? first? Malekith, Morathi, Azazel, or Karl Franz? Well, it's actually Thrawn. See, Sigvald was out minding his own business, raising some cities, sacking some settlements, typical stuff. Then this happened. That is an entire army of Hellpit abominations and doom wheels. He has 2 cities. Of course, in being surrounded by giant tentacled beasts, Sigvald was right at home. Slaaneshi units only really have one benefit. They just don't die. For these guys, getting hit by a train is a pretty average Tuesday. Slowly, over the course of 10 minutes, Sigvald grinded down each Hellpit abomination, Skaven hero, and Throt himself while regenerating to full health. Even after winning the battle, we still had 4 Azazel 20 stacks to deal with. So Abaddon killed all 4 himself, then confederated Azazel. As for his vassal,
to be honest, I'd rather be raiding.
there's a reason you need level 30 to become a demon prince. It is insanely strong. Ascending cuts your level in half, so you need to work all the ways back up to max. But where Abaddon is a Chaos Undivided prince, you can get others. For example, turning the Slaaneshi sexy man into sexier man, a no-name Tzeentch lord into a no-name Tzeentch demon, and our famous Reddit man into Reddit mod. Even our non-demon prince lords are insanely powerful, with Kolek having taken the entire left side of the map on his own. Though I think my favorite part of being Chaos is ignoring what the game tells me. Trespassing will have diplomatic repercussions. Despite owning the entire top of the map, our strength rank was only 2. Cathay was rank 1, the Skaven in the south is rank 3, and Morathi is rank 4. Of course, that doesn't include the real number 1. The Wood Elves. Not because they're strong, but because every Wood Elf faction is allied to every other Wood Elf faction. Plus, the Skaven we were fighting in the north kept ambushing my armies. Except armies means literally just Sigvald, and ambush means getting trashed by him. Watching him get ambushed by 4 armies at once and not taking a single point of damage. In the meantime, our other enemies had different plans. Archaon's getaway cruise also gave way to an important event, the Sword of Cain being claimed by this loser nobody. Fortunately, the game tells me exactly where he is. And now this was it, the moment we've been waiting for. A legendary duel to the... You know, it turns out we didn't really need the sword, or the other 19 units in the army. By defeating the holder, we get to take control of the sword itself, bestowing massive stat bonuses to an already juiced Archaon. I tested the sword against King Lewin of Bretonnia, where it could summon massive vortexes and protect the wielder from most damage. Once again, Archaon took effectively no damage through his barrier. But invincible or not, he's also on the far left side of the map. And on the far right side was Cathay demanding payment. $5,000? What do you want? For me to starve? That puts us at war with strength rank number 1, along with declaring war on Morathi.
No.
Oh, okay. And in addition, a whole lot of stuff that I am just going to speed through. Killing Throt, killing Kislev, killing Durthu, owning an insane amount of cities, crapping on Morathi again, raking in that sweet raiding income, and to top it all off, confederating Festus.
I don't need my sword to strike you down. Here's a maggot.
Killing the Changeling, killing Throt, attacking Clan Pestilence, collecting every Chaos boon, make sword get bigger, watch Karl Franz be alive, then walk into 4 stacks of Chosen, checking my diplomacy, then realizing I don't know who's gonna declare war on me because it goes off the screen, so I declared war on everyone. Then lastly fought our final Chaos Lord, Be'lakor, in a battle I would detail greatly if it didn't last 2 minutes. So at the end of everything, what's the actual result? On the left side of the map, I owned everything before Lustria, where the Skaven had taken over, and in the center, I controlled the Empire's former land. But most importantly, we confederated all of the Chaos Undivided Lords under one faction, bringing us to the next challenge, the Endgame Crises. As I mentioned briefly at the start of the video, I've been playing this campaign with Ultimate Crisis mode on. This means that upon reaching a long campaign victory, we'll have 10 turns before every endgame crisis spawns at once, essentially stacking over 100 armies all over the map directly at war with me. And because my goal is to conquer every single province on the entire map, I have to fight every crisis to the death all at once. The only thing between me and the crisis starting is the Empire dying. Chaos Dwarves, Wood Elves, Greenskins, Skaven, Vampire Counts, Tomb Kings, and the Dwarves. In 10 turns, all 7 of these factions will spawn ludicrous amounts of armies in each of their homelands. So the Wood Elf armies spawn in Forest Glades, Dwarves spawn in Mountain Strongholds, so on and so forth. The Skaven Crisis works a little differently, but we'll get to that later. It's also the reason I have saved $600,000, so I can recruit about a dozen more armies all across the map. Now, I could abandon every single non-Dark Fortress settlement and pull back, but there's a reason I'm not. Something I've been avoiding talking about this entire game is resources. Gems, dyes, wine, lumber, iron, all the tradable goods in the game. Now, because we're at war with everyone and have no treaties, trade is worthless. But what does matter are the unique chaos buildings for each resource. Every building gives a unique faction-wide bonus that does stack. And because I control a solid third of the whole map, well, furs give plus 10 Marauder armor. I have many furs, so my Marauders have 600% more armor. Wine gives them plus 5 melee attack, so lo and behold, with all my wine, 300% stat increase. One even gives minus 5% building cost, so my buildings are essentially free. For that reason, ideally, I'll be defending most of my land. Still, I had to pull back a bit to natural choke points, like the 2 gate fortresses that lead into the Empire's land. Archaon, Valkia, and Festus were positioned in front of 3 of the Wood Elf spawn locations. Azazel defended a far north dwarf spawn location. Several armies sat in front of a Skaven spawn point. Some defended the far right side from Cathay, and Kolek stood on a bridge, ready to fight a whole continent. I passed the final turn before the crisis, and all hell broke loose. Grombrindle, Umgrim, Throt, Manfred, Cetra, Vlad, Kemler, Grimgor, and 4 sets of elves, just to name a few. My first move was instantly blitzing 3 Wood Elf factions into extinction, using Festus to kill Umgrim, and throwing an army of Marauders at a dwarf artillery line in a choke point and somehow winning. But not everything was according to plan. Several of my armies had the crisis spawn and trap them completely. And I'd even completely forgotten about the far, far north dwarves, so I had to recruit a cheap 20 stack for a snap defense of the Dark Fortress. Outnumbered, outgunned, and fighting significantly better units, I was able to use a Shrine of Slanesh's AoE passive damage to slowly drain melee units, while microing the garrison's Chaos Knights to pick off the reinforcing ranged units. But the real hero was a single Chosen who stood on the wall, taking artillery and gunfire for the whole battle while ensuring the wall towers kept firing. He eventually died, but will forever be memorialized as Gary, the little Chosen that could. The North was safe, at least for now, allowing us to send Archaon through a Chaos Dwarf tunnel leading all the ways to their land. Their crisis spawns these tunnels all over the map, and any faction can use them, meaning wiping them out is a priority. I finally ended the first turn of the crisis, and you know what? I think we really accomplished a lot. This is all the first turn, by the way. I'm barely editing this, just so you can experience what I'm experiencing. You know, I actually had to cut out a few in the interest of time. It's still going. I hope you'll like siege battles, because we're gonna be fighting a lot of them, as a faction with almost no ranged units. Another 40 minutes of grinding this time, and we weaseled out another win, meaning I was just barely able to get sieged again the next turn in the same spot by a different faction. How is it possible that we keep holding, despite so many sieges and such incredibly unfavorable odds? Well, remember when I was explaining the Chaos Warband system, we recruit Marauders who turn into Warriors, and eventually Warriors turn into Chosen. But what I didn't mention is that Chosen can ascend too into aspiring champions. At the start of the game, these units suck. They're a direct downgrade from Chosen and are generally worse. So what changes? The research tree, which I have completed. At the start of the game, they are naked, but now they have perfect vigor, frenzy, fear, immunity to psychology, poison attacks, regenerating barriers, regenerating health, damage scaling, movement speed, more armor, ward save, magic resist, and range resist. Oh yeah, they can also summon demons. They have more health than most heroes, are specifically buffed by Archaon, and have a stat line that rivals even the fiercest crack hobo. So in being sieged by 4 stacks of undead, they killed the legendary hero Krell, held against literally 10,000 enemies, and took essentially no damage at all. Go Gadget, Napalm Strike. Because barriers regenerate infinitely, I just kept pulling out the units with no barriers left, letting them replenish, then throwing them back in. And to be fair, this level of cheese is completely necessary. Even after this battle, there are still 8 armies. At this point, most of my best armies have have to be cheesy. For example, I have a Tzeentch army, the god who's all about magic, trickery, deception, and outthinking your opponent. Yeah, I made a Roomba death stack. Every flying unit is instantly goomed to death. Then I sit on my 6 chosen with halberds and everything dies. My Nurgle army with Festus, he is an AoE passive heal. I sit in a blob and he cannot take damage. And don't even get me started on the Skaven incident, where I kited 4 stacks of Skaven artillery with 1 flying unit until they all killed each other with friendly fire. And Valkyria's army is very simple, where she eliminated the Northern Dwarves pretty easily. Even when she got ambushed, it didn't really matter. Ambushing Valkyria is about as effective as attacking a grown woman with a pool noodle. She will reach into her purse, call forth the power of the Chaos Gods, and smite you. As for Be'lakor, you know, I'm not really sure what he was doing. Despite even these disgustingly powerful armies, I still had to abandon the mountain pass because there was too many enemies. But my real problem was the Skaven. Now you see, the Skaven crisis functions very differently because it doesn't exist. Instead of a full-blown invasion, undercities will begin to spawn. These act as staging grounds for the Skaven invasion and force me to run around trying to find all of them. I also can't just check for Skaven corruption map-wide since it always gets masked by chaos corruption in my territory. I know where the main Skaven army will spawn, right here at Hell Pit, just not where the exact location of the other ones. So what would a well-adjusted, sane individual do to combat this? Hey, other rat people, let's dig under this city. Oh my god, you burned them all down. Because I know they spawn somewhat close to Hell Pit, I just burned everything remotely near it down. You can't have an undercity without a city. So when the full Vermintide triggered a few turns later, they were met with a barren wasteland and 1 city to siege. I didn't think it was possible to win this fight until I realized something. If you put units on top of the walls towards the inside, ranged units still want to shoot them, but they can't hit them, mostly. So the fight was 20 minutes of this. The end result is not only them wasting all their ammo, but any Skaven infantry that tried to climb the walls were immediately shot to pieces. On the far right side of the map, we defended against Cathay with the Great Glugmere. Now I know this is a defensive siege, but what, you expected me to not run outside the city with all my units and camp 4 armies worth of reinforcements on their spawn point? Rookie move, Cathay. Then Glugmere left the settlement to hunt down every retreating lord and army. Before long, we were able to reverse the endgame tide, moving from defending our cities to sieging down the Chaos Dwarf capital, burning down the Oak of Ages, and having Archaon solo the entire Greenskin crisis. Oh my god, it's something else. Being in between a rogue idol and a Ragnarok spider, Archaon is, you guessed it, regenerating health. In the span of me losing track of time, because dear god, I'm losing my mind, we'd gone up to 468 settlements, and the number of people we were at war with had rapidly declined. Don't be fooled by my negative $100,000 income. I am embezzling all of it. Kolek destroyed the entirety of Lostria, Festus ended the Tomb Kings, Tretch died to Valkyria, Be'lakor, I still don't know what he's doing, and Archaon reduced the Great Wall of Cathay to the Great Speed Bump of Cathay. There were only 3 factions left on the map: Helman Gorst, Cathay, and Count Noctilus. So what better way for Archaon to defeat the final survivors of the world than by doing it himself? Helman Gorst, Count Noctilus, and all of Cathay completely eliminated, meaning there were finally no more factions, except for a single Beastman tribe. I couldn't actually find their armies because Beastmen hide by default, so you know what? You win. Here's a military alliance. Wink, wink. What's up, bitch? Now, there are no factions in the world. The diplomacy tab literally can't even be accessed. But didn't I promise that the entire world would be ruins? Why, yes, I did. And with that, there is nothing. 40 friendly armies, 300 hostile factions, and over 500 cities all gone. The only thing left in the entire world is just Archaon. I look around at this planet and I have to say, it's quite the improvement. No French people, no pointy ears, and now Archaon has all the time in the world to sit in his gamer chair, boot up the World Wide Web, and play Warthunder. You didn't think I'd forget. Get your bonus pack right now, absolutely right now.